Well, MPPs are set to return to Queen's Park this week following their winter break. The legislature resumes on Tuesday after a 10-week pause. The government is expected to introduce legislation on automatic license plate renewals, energy and housing. There's also questions about what it plans to do for Ontario's post-secondary sector. Colleges and universities are grappling with frozen tuition fee revenues and stagnant levels of operation funding. Just last week, Premier Doug Ford ruled out tuition fee hikes as a way to ease schools' financial struggles. Now, for more on what we can expect on Tuesday, we're joined live by Aleem Kanji, a political strategist and principal at Aleem Kanji and Associates. Aleem, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. A pleasure to have you on. I want to first start off by asking you what you're looking to hear from legislature this week.
Well, look, long overdue return back to the legislature for all provincial MPPs coming back to Queen's Park. I think we're going to see a focus from this government on some pocketbook issues, things that they've talked about, quite frankly, things that all three parties agree with in terms of making life more affordable for folks. We haven't seen that interest rate cut that everyone's waiting for. And so all of these sort of middle class affordability issues are going to be something I think the government focused on, whether it's renewal of the license plates or freezing the fees of license plate renewals, road tolls in terms of banning those. We heard about those things, and perhaps even a referendum in terms of the carbon pricing and changing that in the future. Now, having said that, we do have a couple of opposition parties. Both, I think, are going to be traveling the province, talking about the same things, and getting geared up, obviously, for an election, which is still down the road in 2026. But I think this session is going to allow the Ford government really to try to reset the agenda, kind of move past the green belt. Not sure if that's going to happen or not. I do expect the opposition to hit on those issues and a few of the walkbacks that the Ford government has found themselves around.
Let's talk strategy for not just the Ford government, but for opposition leaders. Of course, this is going to be Crombie's first full time in session. What do you think her first day will involve? What messages do you expect her to focus on?
Well, look, it's really easy to debate the premier from the couch of CP2 for, but she still doesn't have a seat, obviously, in the legislature. And whether she chooses to do that, we will have a by-election called out in Milton, happens to border Mississauga, and whether she chooses to run or be patient and wait for an opening of a seat. We've got half a dozen seats in Mississauga, and she may wait for the election. I think time will tell. There certainly is a focus. We've seen the ads running hot and heavy in terms of attacking Bonnie Crombie, and we've got Merritt Stiles, obviously, as the opposition leader, who's trying to make a name for herself. We're seeing the Liberals creep up in the polls. Election is still a long ways away, but I think they're going to focus on the changes and the walkbacks that the incumbent government has done. I think both parties will moving forward. And we're going to have a budget first week of March or thereabouts. And we'll see how that shapes out in terms of the budget projections, the deficit projection, almost at around $4.5 billion. Not quite where the government wanted it to be, but that will be coming forward in a few weeks' time.
Well, you mentioned it yourself, but education has been a hot topic, especially for post-secondary students, the funding around that, of course, the real pressure that it's putting on foreign international students coming into the province. Can we expect to see any rhetoric around that? And if so, what options are you thinking that opposition leaders will really be pushing forward on that?
Well, look, education and health are the vast majority of the provincial budget. And if you can't get those things right, heads are going to fly. Healthcare and education, I think, are core to the people of this province. And, we're seeing the wage restraint legislation in terms of Bill 24, in terms of capping those wages coming back. It's going to be repealed. And we will see some changes, I think, in terms of some of how the second-tier colleges run and how they're funded in terms of international students, in terms of what's paid. There will be changes coming forward in that separate some of those first-tier colleges and universities from the second tier. Certainly, the international students are paying a lot more. But what does this mean for housing? What does this mean for how they pay their tuition and how they continue to stay, if they so choose, in this province and contribute to the provincial economy?
Ontario Big Mayor certainly had a lot to say on that front, so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out in the legislature this week. Aleem Kanji, political strategist and principal at Aleem Kanji and Associates, thank you for joining us today.